Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Jeff. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I've noticed you in our Facebook group. You are quite active there. I saw you do a lot of SaaS posting and also technical stuff. And every
Yeah.
post I saw from you, I was accept. I love it. Um, and yeah, we decided to do this interview. You found me on LinkedIn, so I'm excited.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Who is Jeff Zigman?
Brief summary. So, I have an engineering background. I've been in the tech startup space for about 10 years. I've been a CTO for 8 years. I've been a business analyst. I started doing software testing about 15 years ago, and then I became a business analyst. That was my first, I guess, real professional job 10 years ago. And since then, I've done in detail all parts of the software cycle in a lot of depth. There are times where I was doing 6 to 8 technical roles that are normally a full-time position, all simultaneously while running a company as CTO. So I've gotten to do the more you do at the same time of adjacent skills, the more your brain starts to think in multiple dimensions at the same time, and you start thinking much quicker in different ways. So I've designed, led, built a few hundred software systems and modules and a few dozen businesses, projects. Led multi-million dollar enterprise software from the ground up, something depending either on my own or leading a team. And I've I've been able to lead a team with for for $500,000 in 4 years, what competitors on the market took 10 years with 15 developers and over $20 million to build. So been able to accumulate a good amount of experience in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm a non-technical person, but I would be curious to know if you can simplify and explain to me the software cycle. I saw you mention it a lot, and what is it?
Software cycle is very often misunderstood by non-tech people, and even tech people don't fully see the full picture until years into working, and sometimes even it takes a lot longer beyond even some people who've been working for 10 years don't fully get it because they don't see all the parts of it in depth. So most non-tech people who think about software, they think, okay, you have an idea, you explain it to a developer, and then they build it, and everything turns out magically correct.
Yeah.
So people think that coding is what software is. Software requires about 10 different disciplines, technical disciplines, to do right. Coding is roughly the 7th one if you think about it sequentially, which I could tell if you want to know, I can run through them in a second. So it's roughly the 7th one sequentially, and it's the least important of all 10 of them, which is why the majority of software projects fail. So if you're trying to embark on something and you think that the 7th thing in the process, which is the least important thing, is the only thing in the process, you're going to neglect everything else, and the chance of you getting it right is extremely low.
And I saw on your LinkedIn heading that you mentioned you can solve any tech or business problem. How does that work?
Things are difficult when you're not clear on how to solve them, right? As soon as anything is clear to you, then it's not hard to solve, right?
Yes.
Thing about software is that there's so many different pieces to it that if you're unclear on any parts of it, then that creates ambiguity, creates like a lack of clarity, right? So if I run through just the different parts of the software process, so first step is gathering business requirements, right? I write a lot about that because it's the first step in the process. It's the most important step of the entire process. It's the part that is done wrong or skipped or incomplete most of the time. And every single other thing that happens throughout the rest of the process is completely 100% dependent on what you do there. So if that part's done wrong, then it ripples throughout the all the other steps, and it goes wrong, right? So if you need that, then you have to put together specifications, use cases, mock-ups, stuff like that. Then you need to take that and you need to translate it into technical specifications, right? And there's a translation gap, a communication gap there between the business side and the technical side, where if I would say that about 30% of the message there is lost on average, 30%. So if you get the first part right, the gathering requirements, which is extremely rare and almost never happens, then if you get it to that point, then you unless you have someone who can translate it over that gap, I call it the broken telephone of software development. It's where you have from the business side to the tech side, on average you lose, I'd say, at least about 30% of the message, so to speak. And then it goes over to database design, and it goes over to programming logic design, and then you have front-end development, back-end development, you have project management, you have testing. So there's about 8. You could divide it a little bit more, like UX optimization, UI design, and so on. So you have like 10 different disciplines involved in doing this, right? So the more you know and clearly understand each of those 10 different things, the less of an unknown it is to you, right? So if you can see, if you've worked in and done a lot of projects and doing all 10 dimensions over and over and over and over again, you can kind of see how all of them are going to play out and mix together, kind of thing, and how one little thing at the beginning will propagate throughout all the other ones. So how do I know that my tagline says I can solve any business tech challenge for $10,000 to $20,000 in a month? It's because when I hear what the thing is at the beginning, because I've done it so many times like that, and I've done all parts of it, I can see what it looks like in my head throughout this entire thing. And then with doing some quick notes, I can see which parts are a little unclear to me or potentially unclear, and then I might have to do a little research. Or I can see if, okay, everything seems pretty straightforward here, so I can tell, like, okay, I know that I'm going to be able to solve this, and here's what I would charge. Here is roughly what it would cost if you were trying to get it developed. Had people who've spent $350,000 to try to get something that's still not market ready. I've seen $150,000 in a year and a half. I've seen millions of dollars. Heard of stories of people spending $500,000 multiple times to try to get something done, and it's still not working. So, and there's countless stories like that.
And why is that happening?
Because if you don't understand all those parts of software, so there's the part that let's separate it between determining product market fit as something else that there are people better than me at, okay? And then talk software development, okay? Software product development, okay? So if we go, both of those are very important, extremely essential. Like you can do the software product development perfectly, but if the thing you then build doesn't solve a problem for people with the target market, whatever, then who cares how well you can build a thing? You're not actually solving something that people care about, and I've made that mistake myself as well. It's a part of a consequence of being able to build things so quickly is that it takes time to do the research to find something to the product. But it's like, but I can build that whole thing that would normally take 6 months, and I can build it in a week. I'm going to build it, and then I'm going to have a solution that I could present to people. But if you do that, it's not the smart way of doing it, because then you might be building something that nobody cares about, which doesn't help you, right? What was your question again? Sorry, I went on a tangent there.
No worries. Why is that happening? Why are those big fails happening?
Because
what's the most important factor, in your opinion, that's making those happen?
People skip or don't know how to do the business requirement gathering phase. If I were to tell you if I were to tell you what do you think about the idea of building a house without building a blueprint first? You'd tell me I'm crazy. When it comes to software, people do that all the time, and they don't even know it's a thing. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to tell you, I want to ask you about your current company.
So my current company is so right now there's two things I'm doing. Well, I just started another one, but so I'm working as a fractional CTO and business analyst. So with either companies that need help with fractional CTO stuff, or established companies who need help with automation, scaling, business process automation stuff, process improvement, process automation stuff like that. And I have my own company called SkillBuilder, which is essentially like a virtual remote employee training. So I've been doing martial arts for about 20 years also. And I took the principles I learned from martial arts about how people learn new skills and absorb new skills. And basically took those principles and built a software platform around those learning principles needed to build new skills effectively, which most people don't know how to build new skills quickly. So you can take any online learning with the best instructor, best content in the world. If the person learning it has not learned how to pick up new skills, they're going to see it, they're going to watch it, and then they're going to take away a very small percentage of it, and they're not going to actually be able to execute effectively on it. So this takes those principles.
So what's your one quick tip for someone who wants to start to learn how to learn? Learn
how to learn. You taking martial arts will definitely help you with that, but a lot of it is based around repetition and practice, actually doing things hands-on rather than just looking or reading or watching or whatever. Like if you never do, you're not going to learn anything. Not going to be able to learn anything. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to apply anything. So if you don't take the thing and try it, practice it again and again, then you're not going to get good at anything. And people who are like, I can learn new things very fast now, very, very fast, because I learned how to do that. And sometimes people spend 6 months and I'll pick it up in an hour decently. Just they don't know they need to repeat it so much to do it. I'll just repeat. I'll ask. You also need to know how to do it right. You need to know how to avoid doing it wrong, because that's what slips people up, right? People spend months on the mistakes. You make a mistake, you don't know it's a mistake. You spend the next 6 months making the mistake. That prevents you from doing it right. You have no clue that you're doing it wrong, and then someone comes and corrects you, say, you're doing this mistake. Then you have to break down the bad habits and rebuild the right habits, which takes even longer.
Yeah. You're definitely active on social media, and I wanted to ask you, why should people follow you on social media?
Well,
what's the number one thing that they can learn?
So I talk a lot. I don't like talking about things that I don't know anything about, or that I don't know that I know about. So the things I know about, and the way I define that is where somebody knows something if they've repeatedly over and over and over again produced successful positive results, and they've gotten to the point where they can do it and repeatedly produce successful results quickly, over and over and over and over again. That's kind of how I define when you know somebody knows their thing, right? Because you have a lot of experts out there in different areas that have not necessarily done things effectively themselves or achieved results. The things that I talk about a lot are the importance of requirements gathering in software, different parts of how to design and build software properly to avoid months or years of pain, which I see it all the time. I talk about how to improve process improvements, how to accomplish more every single day just by analyzing the things you're doing that are inefficient. How to leverage. I don't talk as much about this, but I incorporate this. How to incorporate automation into your own business processes to basically not have to do things that a human being shouldn't be spending their time doing. But yeah, if you're interested in startups, if you're interested in software, and if you're interested in trying to do software right and avoiding a lot of the pitfalls that people commonly experience and suffer through, spend long stretches of time going through and dumping a lot of money into, then those are the kind of things that you probably get some good insights around.
And you also have a YouTube channel, right?
I do have a YouTube channel. I post some stuff here and there on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know, how did you come up to be a developer? Your backstory.
I wouldn't really even classify myself as a developer. My expertise, my core expertise, the thing that I can do and in my sleep without even thinking about it, is the business analysis side of things. Like, I've done it so much that the right questions to ask, just without me even having to think about it, they just come to mind.
Okay.
Like, I've done it so much, and it's like, oh, what about this case? What about this condition? Oh, that leads to these 5 branches of things that can happen. And if this thing happens, then it's going to lead to these 4 things that are going to happen, and which is going to lead to this that's going to happen. What about this case? And what about this case? And those 17 cases that pop up in that scenario under the, like, all that stuff just kind of pops into my mind because I've done it so much. I got a job as a business analyst. It's not a role that is found in the startup world. I did it in a more of a corporate setting, and then once I realized, oh, this is how you design, how you start the design process for software. Then at the same time as doing that job, I started a startup company with. It failed miserably, and I made a whole bunch of mistakes, like like everyone. But I started doing that, and then over the years, I noticed how business analysts do things in the industry, and there's a lot of flaws with how they do it, and I started perfecting how I did it. I recently created a course around the fundamentals of how to do it properly, because the average non-tech person is not going to go to study to do anything to become a business analyst, but they do need to know how to organize their thoughts and bring out an idea so that it can actually be implemented. So I had one guy who went through the course. He spent $150,000 developing software. He said that if he had gone through it first, it would have cost him probably about $50,000 for first version. So there's that. The business analysis is really how I started, and then I became a CTO, building up a company, and then I just added on additional skill sets when I saw that the work that I was doing would be amplified by having that additional skill set, and I would on my own just learn it and then incorporate it into what I was designing and how I was managing people and so on.
And do you have any advice for people who would want to follow the same journey as you?
Don't. But they don't
Why?
need to, because it's a very, very unorthodox combination of events that they don't need to follow to be successful. Like, you don't need to follow the path that I went through in order to be very successful, right? You need to.
Oh no, not to be successful, but let's say they like business analysis and also a part of technical stuff. That I was asking.
So the reason why I'm suggesting don't follow the path that I took is because, look, there was a point where I was CTO for a company where I was making very little money as a one of the owners, but I was making very little money for 4 years, where I was simultaneously CTO and business analyst and head of quality assurance. This is for a multi-million-dollar enterprise software, and the only tester of it. And I was designing the database and doing the backend programming logic for it, and project manage. I was taking on 6 to 8 technical roles, working 80 hours a week, and It was great learning experience, but I would not recommend people do that because it's extremely hard to do that. And even that, I was only able to do it because of the background I had before that. So it depends what people are looking for. If people are looking to be a business analyst, find a job as a business analyst, a junior business analyst, and try to do it. And try to get that job. If you really want to do it, offer to work for free at the beginning to get your foot in the door. That's something that
very
people,
good strategy.
Yeah, people often overlook that. They think it's crazy. People will pay $150,000 for an education that's not going to get them a job, and then they're not willing to work for free for a month to show that what they can do, and then actually get the jobs. It's crazy mindset that people have.
Exactly. Well said. What's your favorite software?
My favorite software?
Yeah, software product, I mean. So let's say a project management tool, a calendar, note-taking tool, anything.
I use Trello for project management, for managing tasks and keeping things in order, and I use Xmind as I mind map everything I'm doing. I use Xmind as a mind mapping, like for planning for absolutely everything. I use that. Those are my two key things, and for any visuals I need to do, I've been using OmniGraffle. It's a Mac thing for a while. I know people use Figma a lot. I would probably need to put a little bit time into learning Figma since it seems to be a good tool, but I haven't really used it much myself.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to tell us today?
Is your audience predominantly funded SaaS founders or pre-funding who are trying to learn about it, or like what? So because that'll help me frame useful things for them depending on who it is predominantly.
I think both, but you can try giving each one a piece of advice.
Sure. For the ones with funding, people have a lot of founders who are funded once you get money, you tend to blow money, and because it's there, and like if you have money, use it wisely. Especially now, I heard that VCs are really not funding things too easily now. So money's in a much shorter supply. Like focus on people tend to hire more developers. A developer, as mentioned, is one of many skill sets, and if you're hiring more developers to try to solve problems, but that's not the problem that you have, then that's going to be a problem because you're not solving the problem that you have, and you're adding more. You're adding idle workers who are going to not have anything productive to do. So, and you're probably missing the business analysis. You're probably missing the requirements gathering, since almost nobody does that properly. And that's the kind of thing where you could literally spend 6 months doing something that should have taken you 3 months to do, or 2 months to do. Imagine you're spending $200,000 a month because you're funded, and you're doing that for 6 months instead of 3 months. You just wasted $600,000 for nothing, right?
Yes.
So
more caution.
Yeah. But not just caution, just be aware of the skill gaps that you have, and if you're not aware of them and you don't have anyone who can properly identify, hire somebody fractionally who has the expertise to do that. You might spend $1,000 or $2,000, but you're going to prevent yourself from wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing that, by doing the wrong thing, and then wasting all your investor money. Just because you raised $10 million, like you can still go broke. There are companies doing that if you don't use your money wisely, right? For startup founders who don't have investment, it might be too expensive to hire someone like me, but even for like fractionally, though you might be able to, depends on what your budget is, but you can, like I have courses that can, some courses that help in different areas that can help you and set you on a path to, it won't be as if I did it for you, but it will set you up in a positive direction so you can actually get to a version that makes sense for something. I have one that teaches you how to make a software blueprint, that first step of the process at a fundamental level, but it teaches that. I have another one that I made for salespeople in tech and people doing business development in tech. It's like every single salesperson in tech has a problem dealing with the development team and providing proper value to customers, right? They promise features that they shouldn't be doing, and then they get cut down by the tech team all the time. They get frustrated, it creates friction, and they don't know how to manage those relationships, right? If you don't know how to manage those relationships and be that intermediary, you're going to go home frustrated every day. You're going to feel like your tech team is not going to want you to talk to the customer ever. I had a partner like that who he did that. I told him, you're never allowed talking to another customer about features ever again. You're killing us. Like I told him, never talk with anyone ever again. And it's horrible.
Wow.
And that was someone with more than 20 years of sales experience who had run a sales floor of 92 people, and he was still making those mistakes.
Yeah.
So
no need to judge ourselves if we do mistakes.
Yeah,
Everybody can do it.
Yeah, if you want, we can even I can put a discount if you want to set stuff up with posting here to give access, like a discounted access to people for those
Sure.
2 courses. That would help people get in the right direction. And other than that, feel free you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post about once a day, and I try to give hints on pitfalls and to avoid, and things that can help on the software side to avoid a lot of pain.
Thank you so much for the discount, and thank you so much for helping the community. I'm really grateful, and yeah,
Thanks
you.
for having me.